So our next speaker comes from another incredibly innovative company, and in an arena that I've always been a bit intrigued about, and I've never even been sure I could even get my head around it. So I'm not even going to try and describe it, because I'm sure that she's going to explain it all to us. So Dr. Kate Stone is a founder and director of Novaila, and I think I'll leave it there. I'll let her come and tell us about it. Thank you.
So my name's Kate, and I founded my company Novaila, and a small technology company based in Cambridge. And actually, when anyone asks me what I do, or what I create, I find it really, really hard to describe what it is as well. It's just something that people don't really understand. Probably because I probably don't totally understand exactly what I do. So I found the best way to do that is just to sort of tell a story and show some examples, and just show some things and let people experience some of the things that we create. But basically, it's all about making paper interactive, which actually means nothing at all. I guess once you've said that, no one really knows exactly what that is either. But so my background is I'm a scientist, and so I studied physics and electronics. So kind of on the techie side. But during my last kind of 7 or 8 years since I started Novaila in my garage, I've kind of come out more on the creative side. I like to think so anyway. So I kind of say I'm a creative scientist now. Just creative, not crazy, but there's definitely a fine line. So in Cambridge, there's 9 or 10 of us, and I guess one thing that's quite different about our company is the team is really diverse, and that's something that's incredibly important to me in terms of the people and the skills. So, like I said, I'm a scientist, and usually when a scientist starts a company, then they think that what it's all about is people being really clever and inventing lots of technology. So they want to have more people kind of in their own image and lots more scientists. So I kind of realized the first person I needed to hire was a graphic designer, because I could not draw or make anything look nice at all. Everything I created just looked really geeky, and no one really understood what it was. So, and I'll maybe mention, sort of some of the other skills of the people in our team as well. So I'm kind of like, since I was quite young, quite obsessed with electronics, and I kind of remember when I was a kid, my bedroom was full of wires everywhere, and little switches and buttons and speakers and microphones under my carpet, and in the walls and everywhere. So I was kind of obsessed with putting electronics around the place and making things that you could interact with. And I remember once making like a little bug and hiding it in a book and putting it next to my parents so I could eavesdrop on what they were saying. I was not interested, not interested at all in what they were saying. It's just that I kind of wanted to do that, and I wanted to sort of see that I'd created those types of things. And then I kind of forgot about that, and kind of went off and travelled, and then went to uni, and I joined a startup company in Cambridge after I finished my PhD there, and it was a company that's looking at how to print a display, how to print transistors from organic semiconductor materials rather than silicon. And they wanted to make a kind of an interactive display, kind of like an iPad. And they announced it just a few weeks before the iPad came out, and developed some amazing technology. But it's very much technology based. And I worked there from when there was 5 of us in a small room with a small lab, and I worked there for 4 years. But because what it was about printing as a means to make electronic devices. They were looking at how to print this display. And so whilst I was there, it kind of started my interest in printing as a manufacturing process, but kind of more in a process where you take what you could do with printing, put it in a clean room in a technology environment, and make these sort of electronic devices. But when I left, when I first started out, I kind of started out down the same path. How can I print electronic devices? Print these sort of functional things. And I realized that as I started to do that, and then showed some companies what I've created, I've created this one single printed transistor it's as bad as the first transistor that Intel ever made, and I'm kind of showing companies and saying this is brilliant because I printed it, and they're saying, well, it's actually totally useless because we can't use it for anything at all. So it kind of made me realize that it shifted my focus from creating technology to more trying to think about how I could add some value to something maybe that was already out there, how I could make something interactive. And one of the first companies I went to speak to, they kind of set me a challenge. They were a company that made trading cards, kids' trading cards, and they said, if you could come back in a month and show us that those trading cards were interactive, then maybe we'll be interested to talk. And so I quickly realized that I couldn't do all of the sort of high-tech stuff. I had to just do some really, really basic things. Some conductive inks printed down, some lights that come on, and something that just does something and kind of adds some value to it. And it shifted my perspective a lot. But then, so that kind of also fired up my kind of obsession with printing, but not kind of printing that you do, you know, in an inkjet printer in an office or in a home or a laser printer. The sort of printing that you do in really high volume, because print is absolutely everywhere. And I mean, I was sort of thinking, actually, when I was sat in the audience, because usually wherever I am, I kind of notice where all the print is. I mean, often it's walls, wallpapers, floors are printed, tables are printed, you know, banners, and I was thinking, actually, there's not really any print here at all. But but then I noticed the bags, and you know, every seat has a bag full of all different types of print. And when we all have our technology, you know, I have my iPhone and my iPad and everything, because that's where technology can exist and be amazing in those devices. But what I've become really interested in is what if all the everyday things around us could start to have some of what you have in a cell phone or in an iPad, within a table, within a piece of paper that might itself connect to the internet, and how could you create that? So I've been thinking. So you know, what it kind of, when I started out, what it made me think, what if you could have the pervasiveness of print combined with the power of really simple electronics? And that's what I do. It's about how to take simple forms of existing electronics and combine that with existing ways to print things. And you know, one thing that I learned early on, so actually probably about 4 years ago or so, was just discovering what low-cost electronics there is that's out there. So you know, I'm presenting from my iPad, and it has, you know, the latest processor for a mobile device. Actually, no, my iPhone 5 does. But it's all about that sort of high-end stuff. But what I actually work with is the type of chip that's in a toy or in a greetings card. So in a greetings card, there's a microcontroller, and the chips that we use, they're the same chip that was used in the Apple II back in the day, or the same processor core. And those chips are available in volume for about 8 or 9 cents. So for really sort of a small amount of money, you can start to put the technology, you know, that was used back in the Apple II, which wasn't much, but we can start to run things with that. So it's about how to take that low-end technology you might find in a toy and combine it with a piece of print. So what we use the printing to do is to create the user interface. So it's not about, for me now, it's not about printing transistors or those devices anymore. Those just come off the shelf, old school silicon, like I say, like, you know, from sort of Apple II greetings card type devices, combined with the print. And what we do with the print, or what I wanted to do in the print, was to print the user interface by printing conductive inks. So when I started out, I didn't have a clue how to print anything. And I went to speak to some printers, and I said, I want to print some silver and carbon inks on a high volume print press, so I can combine it with a bit of electronics, make things interactive. And they told me I was absolutely crazy, and it's not possible at all. Don't be so stupid. So I didn't have a lot of money. In fact, I had pretty much no money at the time, and I was kind of in my garage. And I went and got like 10 credit cards and loans and a combination of 10 forms of sort of borrowing money from wherever. And I bought myself this printing press. And the university in Cambridge very kindly gave me a little bit of space. They paid to plug it in, which was kind of not just really plugging it in, it's kind of the whole three-phase thing. So I kind of had this printing press. I didn't have a clue how to use it at all. And I quickly learned how you don't use it. I quickly learned that I could cover myself and the floor with ink absolutely everywhere. One vision that stuck in my mind early on is, I think about 1 o'clock in the morning, I'd got ink all over the floor and everywhere, and like trying to mop it up because I was trying to print some stuff to go to a show to show some people what I'd done. But I figured out how to do it, and I printed some stuff, printed some conductives, and then I went back to the printers and told them what I was doing. And they looked at me like I was stupid and said, "Why didn't you come to us first? Because of course you can do that." But that, so that was cool. I've had to do that a lot. Everything I've wanted to do, everyone's told me it can't be done. That's just what happens all the time when you just do something that's a little bit different. So you have to do it and demonstrate it and then get people interested. And now I've sold the printing press, and we work with commercial printers, and we're doing stuff on their printing presses. We're printing stuff in a few places in the UK, and we've been printing some stuff in the US as well. And I'm fighting passionately to not let the companies we're working with want to print it in China, which is a massive battle, because they do not understand the concept that we can print stuff cheaper here in the UK and in the US, if that's the market, than they can do in China. Which I totally believe is absolutely true, because it's a lot about sort of know-how and knowing how we do this. So I could print these conductive inks, and someone came along and asked, could I make a carton do something different? So I thought, it's actually a cigarette carton, and I thought maybe I could make it so there's a little light inside, so when you open it up, it lights up, because I kind of had geeky engineer brain of it needs to be something functional. And I had a summer student from Cambridge working for me, and okay, I did study at Cambridge, but nearly all the students I've had work for me over the summer have been pretty useless. It's a really awful thing to say, but only because they're just too clever. It kind of gets in the way. So, things like, because they know all the reasons why something won't work. And like, tying the laces and licking a stamp are a little bit of a challenge. One of them I asked to change a light bulb and gave him a catalogue. After 2 days he walked out because I wasn't giving him enough direction, and he complained to his tutor. It's a light bulb. But this one particular student, she did nothing all summer. And then she saw what I'd done with this carton that had a little light inside, and she said, "That's absolutely useless. Why is anybody going to want that?" And she created this cat. And this cat has little LEDs that go in its eyes. And when you open the carton, the cat on the outside, its eyes light up. And I thought it was totally useless. Why would anyone want that? But everyone that saw it totally loved it. They just loved the fact that this cat's eyes lit up. And what really inspired me was the fact that the cat is the circuit, and the circuit is the cat, and you can't have one without the other. So suddenly the design and the technology and the functionality, they're all just one thing. It's not that we've kind of put some lights down and someone's drawn a nice picture around it and picked the right colours and the design comes afterwards. It's like almost like the art and the design has to come right from the beginning and thinking about what we're trying to create. And so she massively inspired me and changed the way I think about things a lot. So that was why the first person that I hired was a graphic designer. And I gave her the brief to make a greetings card and be really heavy on the line art. Because that's kind of one of the routes we were going down, how to embed a circuit into a drawing. And actually, after we'd done that, I contacted my patent agent and said, "Is it possible to patent a form of art?" And he kind of said no. But then I described this, and we actually got a granted patent in the UK on how we lay this circuit out within a piece of artwork. So Maria did the artwork first, and then I went in Photoshop. Actually, I'll show you the next slide. This is just all the lines coloured in different colours. So that would all be silver, and I went in Photoshop and just rubbed out little bits, and the circuit just finds its way through the artwork. And so we printed sensors, and we printed a moisture sensor, because we had this amazing invention. No, actually, we didn't have an amazing invention. What happened was, one of my colleagues was sticking down some LEDs on some paper, onto some conductive tracks, and it was kind of powered up, and she was getting a bit fed up because it's really difficult to put these LEDs down because they're really small, and she kind of went like that, and then the LEDs all came on because the moisture from her breath had triggered the buttons, and we thought, wow, we can use that. So that was how our amazing invention happened. And we actually got a patent granted on that too in the UK. It's great. You can pattern mistakes, and artwork is fantastic. Yeah, so I'll show you what happens. This is a really early demo, so it is actually, the sound is awful and everything. Actually, talking of sound, I need to plug it in. You have to blow it twice because in real life, the candles never all go out the first go, right? So the sound's a bit tacky, but kind of what we were exploring is, and that has a little chip behind and some printed batteries behind it. What we were just exploring is how you could sort of create this interactive experience with a piece of paper. Not you open the card and it makes a noise and that's that. These areas, those are the touch sensors. So that ink, we just put the buttons where you would naturally hold the card, so you don't have to know where to press, you just pick it up. That makes the candles light up. If the candles are flickering, you want to blow them out, so you blow on the candles. That blows 2 of them out, you blow again, it blows out the rest, and then it plays the sound. And we kind of wanted this interaction between a person and the object, because print is all about communication, and communication is supposed to be two-way. And, you know, because that's what a conversation is, right? But most print is just, it's an image and it's text. It communicates to you, but you can't communicate back. And because it only gets one chance to talk to you, it has to have everything it wants to say right there, graphics and text. But if you could just touch it and explore, and it only told you what you need to know as you need to know it, then I think you could make that experience, people could get a lot more out of it, even though initially it has a lot less. So then we had, you know, what we've been doing a lot is thinking about, okay, so we can make some of these things happen. The massive challenge then is how can we put things into some sort of volume production. So now, you know, this is one of the places where we do some printing. So there's 3 printing presses there. I don't know if people know much about printing. This is offset litho printing, and there's different stands for different colors. So we have to swap some of those colors out, and we put carbon ink and silver ink and print those. And so we work with these conductive inks. And these presses go pretty quick, so they'll print about sort of 10 to 12,000 sheets an hour. Not that we're making any product in that volume yet, but hopefully at some point. Yeah, this is what we printed. Actually, it's a bit noisy, but I have one here. So this is one of the posters. So we print graphics on the front, and I don't know if anyone can see, but there's silver circuit on the back, and that forms a capacitive touch. And I've stuck one onto a piece of foam board, and it just makes horrible loud noises. Oops, maybe not. I don't know if you can hear that. Basically, if Tim Westwood had a bedroom poster, I reckon this is what it would be. I get very carried away. So, you know, you can use, if someone's got a, you know, someone says something really profound, you can just drop the bomb. Or you want to spin back, you want to hear what they've said previously. Okay. When I told the other partners in the project that we were doing that with, what I was going to do, this big piece of paper you were going to touch and make these different DJ noises, they said it's absolutely crazy. Why would anyone want that? And I still don't really know why anyone would want it, but they kind of humoured me and we went along. And actually, I have a mate who works at Radio 1, and I said go into Westwood's computer and steal the sounds, and she kind of did. But she said they're not just his, they're everybody's, you know. Yeah, but when I videoed that, put that on YouTube and showed the printers and the partners, they all loved it instantly. This is a carton that we made as a demo with a packaging company in the US called Graphic Packaging. They print a lot of cartons. They print 250 billion cartons a year. I don't know if it has the sound. So we made this fire truck, so you can touch different parts, and it makes different noises when you touch the different parts. Because we were thinking about packaging and thinking about how could we extend its life beyond when it would normally be thrown in the bin. So if it's a cookie carton, how can it become a toy so kids could play with it afterwards? So those are a bit frivolous, and this is something a little bit more serious, which we made a carton working with a pharmaceutical packaging company here in the UK. So the idea is that it has blister packs on it. So when you take the tablet, the carton knows you've taken the tablet. And then it has a little, I call it the am I there yet button on the side. So you can press that button, and then the LEDs will let you know how long it is until you have to take your next tablet. So you know whether it's, an hour, a quarter of an hour, or usually, if anyone's like me, you'll press the button and it'll say, you've just taken it, don't worry, it's another 4 hours. So that's why it's kind of like, am I there yet? The continuous question, the answer is no. But really what it's actually doing is it's monitoring when the medication was taken. So when that's at the pharmacy, it can be programmed with a prescription of when to take the medication. And then every time the medication is taken, it can record that. So when the empty carton goes back, the idea is it could be read, so they would know when you actually took your medication. Because if your doctor asks you if you took your tablets at the right time, the answer's always yes. And one of the largest costs, it is sort of like non-compliance. So being able to know what was taken, and when is potentially really valuable. This is something else we created with graphic packaging, and I don't know why no one's ever thought of this before, because no tissue carton is complete without a piano on the side. Maybe not. But it kind of did have some inspiration. But we were working again with graphic packaging, and we were sat down in their design centre and asking them some of the products they create, and they were telling us about tissue cartons. If they have a nice design on them, they sell for I think it was either 5 or 7 times the amount, just because they've got some Christmas thing on them or whatever. And they said a lot of them are sold in gas stations, and if we could make it be a toy, then maybe it could be bought when people are buying the petrol, and then if you can play a tune on it, then it's a toy in the back of the car. And we put a website on the side. We put a tear-off tab with the colour-coded lyrics for Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. The keys are colour-coded, and you stick that in the top, and anyone who's not colourblind and can read, legal disclaimer, can play Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. But if you go to the website on your phone, then you can get other songs to play. So we were trying to create a way of how can you make someone use the web on their smartphone through an emotional desire to add functionality to a carton to get them to the website, and then maybe you can push other things to them. So we're kind of always trying to think about ways how we could maybe gather data, or how we could drive people to some website, or sort of capture that sort of information rather than just making something, because we realize whatever we create has to have multiple sort of opportunities for some revenue. I just threw this one in. I think it's relevant. I'll just say it quickly. We did a demo with a company that prints stuff for Revolution, and this is a poster that works out your perfect cocktail. So this poster has a speaker in, and you can touch it, and it asks you some questions, analyzes your personality, and recommends one of 30 vodka cocktails. So, and I showed that to the pharmaceutical company, and thinking that they'd kind of laugh, and their reaction was like, oh, "Wow, medical diagnostics! We can." It's like that's what I was thinking. That's why I showed it to them. Just so many random things. It is incredibly random, the things that people ask us to create. It's so incredibly diverse. Someone asked us to do a demo of a book that was interactive. And this is working with a company who manufacture books on behalf of publishers. And they're saying book demos are normally white blanks that are shown to the book industry. So they wanted me to do a white blank book that you could touch some stuff in it, and it would then play some sounds. So we put a headphone connector in the side of the cover. So it's like a normal hardback book in every way, apart from you can touch a page on the back, plug your headphones into the cover, and you can listen to some content. And I'm not going to show a white blank book, because that's just a massive missed opportunity. I want to put a bit of colour in there or something. So they told me not to, and they wanted me to show this at Frankfurt Book Fair. So I couldn't resist, though. So I went onto YouTube and got some sounds. I went onto Wikipedia and got some information, and I went onto Google Images and got some pictures. Just because they were thinking, you've got a book that reads to you. It's like, well, that's really boring, because you've kind of already got the book. So I think, what else could you do? So I did a few things. One of them was like about the lunar landing. So, you know, you type in the code for lunar landing and then you hear Neil Armstrong's crackly sort of, you know, voice coming back of the actual lunar landing. You can't put that into print. You have to actually hear it. We've done another page that's about a meditation. And I bought a book on meditation. It's really, really difficult. I mean, meditation's not as difficult, but from a book. So the first thing this says on the meditation page is close your eyes. You can't do that when you're reading a book. you have to hear it. Another one we've done, another page is Nigella talking about chocolate brownies, and you can't put that into print. And that was of all the things I downloaded, that was the only one that triggered off my kind of like antivirus thing, because it thought there was some porn going on for some reason. I don't know why. And then another one we've done is a 2 1 is 4 candles sketch, because again, you can't put that into print, right? You have to hear it. So thinking again a lot about how we connect print to the internet, because that's really, really interesting. This was something else that we came up with. So we've written an app for the phone, and then when you touch the postcard, this is a really basic demo, but it was just the first one we did earlier on this year to show how we could do that. So when you touch the postcard, the phone knows what you've touched. And the technology in there is really, really simple. It's just, in fact, the technology in there in volume would cost less than 50 cents. All it does is the different buttons send an encoded sound that's different to the phone. So all the app does is open the microphone, and all the card does is play a beat. When I first started doing that, I was trying to make sounds that you couldn't hear, either so short you can't hear them, or high frequency so you can't hear them. And then I realized if I achieved that, I'd have a button on a piece of paper that I would press and you'd hear nothing. I thought, actually, I need to hear something. So the noise that it makes to let you know you've touched it is actually the code. So we've done it so when you touch it, it can play a video, or maybe it can go to a website. So you could have postcards, maybe there can be giveaways, maybe direct marketing, those types of things we could explore, where you can interact with a card, connect it to an app, and make it do something else that you couldn't otherwise do on the phone. Okay, back to just a little bit of technology, because that's the sort of stuff we're working on now that we think is ready to go now, and just something that we're kind of working on for the future. Most of what we've done is about sound, because sound's kind of an easy thing to do, add a speaker or some wireless connectivity. But we really want to do something to have some light coming out of the paper. So we're working with some LEDs that are pretty small. They're about 0.2 by 0.4 millimeters in size. In fact, they're so small that when I pick them up with the tweezers, I can't actually be certain I've actually picked them up. I just have to kind of believe that they're there. And they're so thin you can't feel them, but they're so bright that they can actually hurt your eyes when the light comes out of the page. And they're actually just standard LEDs, because a normal LED is in a package to be soldered onto a circuit board. And basically, someone's put them in the wrong package, because we don't use circuit boards, we use print. So what we're interested in doing is taking the crystal that would normally go into a normal LED, getting that crystal and embedding that into a sticker in a high volume process, so we could have low cost LEDs in a roll on a sticker that you could stick down onto print and then make light come out of the page, because they would connect to the conductive tracks that we've printed. So you could, possible to put that down and make little video displays on a piece of paper in the future. This sort of stuff is a few years away. But even just points of light coming out of a paper, they're incredibly small. When they're off, you can't see them, and it's just magical when they come on. So that's something else that we've been working on, and our method for doing that was something else we're lucky enough to get a patent granted on in the UK. So there's light. I think it's a little video, but it's a bit rubbish, but I just threw it in anyway. More of those horrible sounds, which I actually really like, just embarrassed. We're printing transparent touch, so like the touch screen you have on the phone, or a smartphone or whatever. We're looking at how to print capacitive touch, and it's really low cost, because most capacitive touch is very expensive. This is just a low volume print process. In fact, we've actually printed that on, I think, what was that one on? I think that's printed on material that's normally on shampoo bottle labels. We just printed on a label press. So quite low cost. And we've also been working on print, so that's just individual buttons. Oh. We always give ourselves a round of applause in the office whenever we do anything. It's a bit sad, but I think that was that in the background. I'm going to turn that off. Yes, sorry, I didn't explain it properly, but the graphic is behind, so the transparent touch is just over the top, and it just has a greyness about it. But we've also printed XY multi-touch pads, so we've done sort of a 4-inch one, and we're soon going to print like a 7-inch and a 9-inch XY multi-touch pad, which we're working on. This one was also a little bit random. It's something we did with Dundee University. We're sponsoring a PhD design student there. And I just threw it in, I don't know, I quite liked it. He designed and we printed some paper headphones. And we were at South by Southwest earlier on this year, and we were giving away these large sheets that you could fold up and make your own headphones. And it's quite cool to see people walking off wearing these headphones that we'd printed. We also did this with Uniform, a design agency in Liverpool, who also came to South by Southwest with us, which was kind of fun. I ended up having to sit on a panel discussion and have an argument. I don't know if anyone knows King Creosote. He was one of the Mercury nominees last year, and I had to sit there and have an argument with him because he's an absolute Luddite for technology, and I had to argue for technology in music. And the question of our panel was, can print electronics save the music industry? My answer is no, but it got me to Austin, which was kind of cool. And so we did this poster as well, and this ended up getting on the BBC News website, which was kind of fun, where you touch different spots and it plays different tunes to you. So kind of exploring how can you have a poster that you can touch, hear bits of music, could you then touch things to maybe download the music to your phone? And so, I mean, everything I'm showing is just kind of a story from maybe 5 years ago, of where we started. I didn't have a clue what I was doing when I started at all, and I just kind of like evolved down this path, always trying to think about how to use the most basic bits of technology that don't normally go together, bits of technology that people tell us can't go together, and then trying to be creative with it. I said I'd mention a bit more about some of the people in the team. So say other colleagues we have software developers who can develop software, say for on a smartphone or an iPad, a software developer developing the software that sits on the chip that might go in the paper. So there's Maria, the graphic designer. We have a product designer, someone from the print and packaging and ink industry who is knowing how to put stuff actually on a printing press. Another scientist. I hope I haven't forgotten anyone. But it's about bringing together skills in science, art, design, and electronics kind of in one room, and not trying to do anything amazing with any one particular thing, but just bringing them all together, trying to be creative. As well as print and as well as electronics, I quite like cake. Quite a lot. So we made a poster about cake. It's quite a large poster. And again, it's a bit like the vodka cocktail poster. When you touch it, it talks to you. And it asks you questions and analyzes and determines your perfect cake. And there's about, I should be able to do the maths, but I can never remember. There's about 60 different cakes or something like that. And it's funny, when people go to use this, first of all, they feel really judged. Like someone's watching them, watching their choice. Like, it's about cake. So that's kind of funny. And they're kind of taking ages as well because they want to get it perfectly right, because there's this choice of these 60 cakes. How are they going to? They feel they've got this amazing choice. But there's something that I saw, and I guess you all already know. Even though there's all that choice, pretty much everyone picks. There's only one choice really. Chocolate, soft and gooey, or dark and dense. That's the only one that's usually divides people, usually. Chocolate, soft and gooey, taste, and because everyone thinks they deserve it. So everyone gets a chocolate brownie. And it was quite interesting. You've got this massive choice, and you totally control what people do. It's great. But that's what I guess that's what most of you do all the time, right? I don't know, actually, but actually, when it gets to the end, it doesn't tell you your cake, which is maybe a bit annoying. But what it does is it uploads a picture, the name, and why it chose that cake to our Facebook page and to our Twitter feed. So on your smartphone, if you go to our Facebook page, you see the location of the latest cake that's been uploaded. You then know that was your perfect choice of cake. because we wanted to show that we could connect print to, to social media and get someone to our Facebook page and then maybe get them to like it. That was kind of the idea behind it. How could we create print in the street to the internet? How can we start to make that connection? And then starting to realize that, I mean, as was said in some of the talks earlier on, the value in capturing that data. At the moment, that poster connects just via a mobile device that we have nearby to the internet. If someone's running an app, that say the out-of-home advertising connects through the app on their phone and goes to the internet, you could know who is touching what, where, why, and when instantly anywhere. And we've done this with some of the other stuff now, where we can set up a website that can actually monitor exactly what's being touched. So the potential through just everyday pieces of print to know who's touching what, how long they're touching things for, is, I think, really, really interesting. And it's, to me, kind of a glimpse of the future, because we have our technology, like I was saying before, in our phones and on other devices, but I believe that the technology will start to merge out of those things and go into all these everyday things around us. And if you can do that, if that's possible, which I believe it is possible, I think it's kind of pretty inevitable. Right. The next demo, actually the previous demo and this one, I showed at the Festival of Media in Montreux. And we showed the jazz one because it was Montreux, I guess. But we've updated it, and this is last night was the first time I've used this demo. It might not work, and so I have had nothing to do with this demo at all. And I was really, really proud that everyone in my team made this, and last night was the first time they let me have it. And I thought I'd show it because I've got a whole bunch of stuff with me, because I'm actually on my way to America now. I'm going to the airport after this, so I just grabbed a few things, and I hope this works. It's cool. So this is just a sticker. It's a label that we printed on a label press, and we put it on a bit of foam board, and it has our circuit board in the back. So yeah, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, but I'm just touching the different instruments. Stop me if I get carried away. Bit of piano. Oh, turned it off. Maybe you can have a go. I don't know. It might work. I don't know. You can dance. It's linked to my iPad. I think the iPad, we found out, can only run 6 simultaneous audio channels, so once it goes beyond 6, it's all going to go wrong. So just turn some of them off. Oh. Thanks. So we're working with a bunch of people. We have a project with a few universities, Dundee, let's get it right, Dundee, Surrey, and University of Central Lancashire. And we're working on a project called Interactive Newsprint. And we're working to look at what if we could make newspapers interactive. What would that mean? How could we use that? So we're creating a bunch of demos, working with them, that they're trying out in the community. Actually, I'll run the... They made a video the other day and sent it to me, so I thought I'd show it.
It's an audio 3D. It adds that different dimension.
The newsprint industry have never been able to do anything like this before. Now they've got the opportunity to use a simple newspaper and record every kind of interaction that a reader has with the paper.
It has that look and feel of the paper.
So the aim of this project was to develop a new platform for community news, working with communities to help them generate content and to work with the technology company to build the type of platform that communities actually wanted. So rather than technology companies building technology and then being quite prescriptive about how we all have to use it. We wanted communities to be able to feed directly back to the technology company so that they could refine their offering and create the type of platform that communities wanted. Paper data is just our term for the information that we've collected. Each time somebody interacts with the paper, they click on one of the icons that plays a little piece of audio, that sends a signal to our database, a graphical user display that shows what's been clicked on, it shows perhaps how long the audio content's been playing for, and it's all kind of presentable back to, let's say, an advertising agency, or somebody who wants to place an advert in a community newspaper to demonstrate that their advert's being listened to. They've been able to do that online for quite a long time. They've never been able to do that on newspaper before.
So I'm not saying all is, I mean, we're creating demos of some of these things, so please don't ask me to come and like produce 100,000 newspapers that are interactive tomorrow. I mean, everything we're doing is bringing together the different bits of technology, but trying to show some of the things that we can do, and we want to go along a roadmap of doing some simple things first. But I mean, I believe that if we can sort of set the technology free from the little boxes that it's confined in and put it everywhere, then we can make a totally interactive and immersive world. So thank you very much.
Hello? Oh, sorry, shouting. Hi, I'm Nikki McCulloch from Essence. Thank you. That was just an amazing presentation.
Oh, thank you.
Well, this big question. Where do you see this going? Because the possibilities look endless.
I just think it's going to go everywhere. I do. I mean, I hope that I can make sure that we're part of it going everywhere. That's the huge challenge that I have running a small company is to, when you're doing something that's just kind of almost so far ahead, that I'm probably not answering your question. I've gone off on one, but never mind. The biggest problem we have is everybody loves it, and everyone we show it to, they love it, and they go, wow, this is the big thing for next year. And then they get on with the big problem for today. And it's just got to get across that gap. I think if we can do small things first and go along a kind of a roadmap, it will go absolutely everywhere. I mean, it just has to. If we've got a low-cost way of taking bits of what you have in cell phones and stuff and putting it into everything around us, it has to go everywhere. And I just sort of, in the future, not too far away, a few years away, I believe the technology is just going to disappear. But it will be within everything, and it's there for you to use or not to use. So it's like everywhere, but in a way less invasive as well.
Brilliant, thank you.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thanks.
Hi, Rose from Pembridge. I advise and help startups and early stage businesses raise money, and I'm interested in your funding story because it doesn't look like a truly commercial opportunity quite yet. How have you funded the business?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix. Although the government don't know it, they've been very supportive.
Very good.
That's one thing. I have managed to have a lot of grants from lots of different little pots, which has all been good. Probably about $500,000 in grants over the last 5 years, maybe. I've raised venture capital money. It kind of like sort of angel amounts, but from a VC firm, which is 2 streets away from here. So we've raised nearly £1 million. And then, okay, so a lot of what I show is quite generic, but we've done things for specific companies, for companies paying us to develop technology demonstrators for them to show in different areas. So that's kind of provided, that's provided another chunk. So it's the 3 areas really. So paid commercial work to create technology demonstrators for companies to explore, government grants and venture capital. And some of the demos that we do for companies are really cool, and I can't show them, which is massively frustrating. One of my favorite things about what I do is the companies that are so interested in what we do. Without doing any PR, without ever cold calling on any company, the companies that we talk to, it's amazing. I mean, in the toy industry in the US, we're chatting to some of the largest toy companies there. I'm with a few of them. I mean, I'm going to the airport now, and I'm flying to the US to be with some of those toy companies. Some of them are paying us to do stuff, and then other areas like medical and other types of areas as well. So, yeah, so not big VC amounts of money, because I think we want to do something that's real.
Hi.
Hi.
I've got 3 very quick questions.
Okay.
Sorry. 1, are you going to do this with fabrics? 2, have you thought about using accessibility as a route to mass market, so talking bills, for example, from British Gas? And third thing is, can I have your business card, and if I touch it, will it talk to me?
We thought about on fabrics, and other people have done stuff on fabric. But what we do is we don't choose to do any particular route. Everything we create is inspired by who comes to us and says, you know, can you do this particular thing? And hopefully they'll give us some money to explore that route. So I don't believe we're smart enough to know which is the right commercial route to go down, because it could be anything, anywhere. So or everything, everywhere, or whatever. So we don't choose that. It's whoever comes along. So so if you come along and you think that talking business cards is the next big thing, then yeah, the business card will talk. But you've got to pay for it. Okay, thanks.